Rain hit the tin roof like fingers tapping a warning. Jace sat on the floor of his small outpost, back against the wall, staring at the quiet screen. Outside, the wind screamed across the empty desert planet. It had been 7 years since he last saw a human face. He didn't mind being alone, not anymore. After the war, after Earth fell silent, Jace had learned not to expect much from life. The galaxy had moved on without them. Now the outer worlds belonged to the stronger alien races, the richer ones, the ones who didn't bleed from what they lost. Jace was just a maintenance man. He repaired broken signal towers for scraps. Food came from storage packs, water from a recycled barrel. His voice had grown unused to speaking. Only his eyes stayed sharp, watching the sky like a soldier waiting for ghosts. One night, his silent world cracked. It started with a flash so quick, he thought it was lightning. Then the sensors lit up. Something crashed about 2 clicks east of his shelter. Too small to be a ship. Too fast to be a meteor. Jace he grabbed his coat, checked his pulse rifle, and walked into the wind. It didn't take long to find it. A small black pod, half buried in sand. Steam rose from its panels. It had no markings, no distress signal, no sound inside, but then he heard it. A soft cry. Human? No, not human. Too clear, too melodic. He crouched and touched the pod. It vibrated softly under his hand. With a click, it opened like a flower in reverse. Inside was a girl. No, an alien. She was curled in a fetal position, wrapped in a silver cloth that pulsed with faint light. Her skin was soft blue, glowing faintly in the cold. She looked young, but he couldn't tell her age. Her eyelids moved as if dreaming. And strapped across her chest was a translation pendant blinking red. Jace stared, rifle ready. Don't be stupid, he whispered to himself. She's not a threat. She's injured. He should have left her. That's what the survivors said to do. Never help strangers, especially aliens. But something about her face, she looked peaceful and scared. He picked her up, surprised by how light she was. The pendant blinked faster, then whispered something in a language he couldn't understand. She didn't wake. Back at the shelter, Jace placed her on his cot and covered her with a blanket. Her breathing was steady but shallow. He noticed the scars on her arms, thin, white lines like she had been through something worse than a crash. The pendant finally turned green. Then, a soft robotic voice said in English, "Unit activated. Caretaker, please remain calm." Jace stepped back. "Caretaker?" The girl stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, large, glowing softly, filled with confusion. She tried to speak, but her lips trembled. "It's okay," Jace said, his voice rough from disuse. "You're safe," she blinked, then stared at the ceiling. "This is not the academy." Her voice was soft, unsure, like a broken music note. "No," he said, "this is nowhere." She looked at him, her eyes scanning his face. "Human? Yeah." She sat up slowly, holding her ribs. "I'm Lyra. I was assigned as a nanny class 4. I don't understand where I am." "A nanny?" Jace raised an eyebrow. "To who?" Lyra's expression shifted. She looked lost, almost afraid. "They said there would be children." "The war, it moved fast. I was placed in cryo. There was a signal, then nothing." Jace sat down. He didn't know what to say. There hadn't been children here in years. He studied her again. Her eyes weren't just glowing, they shimmered when she spoke. Her skin pulsed gently like it carried its own warmth. But she looked fragile, scared. She wasn't built for battle. "You were sent here by mistake," he muttered. She looked at the cold floor. "Am I to be discarded now?" The way she said it, it wasn't just a question. It was like she expected it. Jace turned away. His hands tightened into fists. He had buried too many broken things. He didn't want to do it again. You're staying. Here, he said finally. She looked up. But I have no function here. I am not human. I cannot repair. I cannot fight. I didn't ask you to, he replied. You're not going to die out there in the cold. Her eyes softened, like... She hadn't heard words like that in a long time, and for the first time in years, Jace felt the silence inside him crack. Not from loneliness, but from something else. He didn't know what Lyra truly was, or why she had been sent. But he knew this much: something had brought her here. Something he didn't understand yet, and deep in the shadows of space, something else had noticed. Something that didn't like humans. Something that was already watching them. Asterisk. The next morning, Jace found Lyra sitting on the floor, legs crossed, staring at a cracked datapad like it held the secrets of the universe. She had wrapped herself in one of his old coats, the sleeves too long, her glowing fingers barely peeking out. You sleep? He asked, pouring water into a rusted cup. I do not require it, she said softly, but I rested my system. Thank you for not leaving me. He didn't answer. Instead, he slid the cup across the table. You eat? She blinked, confused. I am not designed to consume human food. I absorb nutrients through patches. She lifted her wrist to show a smooth square pulsing faintly under the skin. Jace sat down, watching her carefully. Her movements were graceful but slow, like she was conserving energy. She didn't look dangerous. Not yet. I ran a scan on your pod, he said. There's no record of you in the old Alliance files. I was part of the final wave before the child relocation failed, Lyra said. The war spread too quickly. The command broke. Many of us were left in transit. So, you were a leftover. Yes, she whispered. He didn't know why that word hit so hard. He was a leftover too, in many ways. Outside, wind picked up again. A sandstorm brewing in the east. Lyra's eyes flicked toward the sealed window. The storm carries radiation. I can feel the air shift. Jace raised an eyebrow. You can feel it? I'm not fully synthetic, she said. I'm part organic. That's why I was chosen to raise younglings from mixed colonies. I was made to feel. That last part hung in the air like a question he hadn't asked. Jace cleared his throat. You need shelter until you figure out what to do. I don't mind the company. She looked at him again, longer this time, like she was reading something behind his face. I would like to stay, if you don't mind my presence. You're fine. Just don't touch anything that sparks. The silence between them stretched, not uncomfortable but unsure. That night, Jace couldn't sleep. The desert wind screamed against the shelter walls. Something about her, Lyra, was digging into a part of him he'd locked away. Her eyes, always watching but never accusing. Her voice, gentle but careful, like every word was chosen. And he kept hearing that pendant again. Unit activated. Caretaker. Please remain calm. Caretaker. Him? It sounded ridiculous. At dawn, he found her standing by the tower access panel. How did you open that? He asked. I watched you yesterday, she said. You entered 3 codes and tapped the screen. Twice. You remember all that? Yes. She turned, almost embarrassed. I didn't break anything. I know, he said, surprised. You were trying to help? I want to earn my place, even if I was sent here by mistake. Jace looked at the panel. It was working smoother than before. She had done something right. You did better than me, he muttered. Her face lit up barely, but he noticed. But before he could say more, the outer sensor alarm rang, loud, sharp. A red light blinked on the wall. Jace rushed to the monitor. He stared at the grainy image. 3 small ships, not Alliance, not trade. Pirates. And they were landing close. Lyra moved beside him. They followed the crash beacon, she said quickly. Some systems activate on impact. You didn't say that. I didn't know. He grabbed his rifle. They'll search for the pod. Then they'll come here. I can hide, she offered. No. If they find you, they'll take you or worse. We can't risk it. He checked the ammo. Only 2 power cells left. His last charge. Lyra looked at the weapon. You can't win against 3 ships. I don't need to win, Jay said. Just make them leave. He opened the floor hatch and handed her a blanket. Stay here. No matter what you hear, don't come out. But she didn't take the blanket. Her fingers reached out and gently touched his wrist. There is another way, she said. I was trained in defensive signals biofrequency blasts. I can disrupt their ship controls, but it may hurt me. What do you mean hurt? If I overload, I will shut down for several hours. I might not wake up. Jace looked at her. She didn't sound afraid, but he was. No, I'll go out first. If things go bad, then you try your trick. For a long second, they didn't speak. Then Lyra whispered, You were alone for so long. Don't make me be alone now. Jace blinked. That sentence so simple. But it hit him harder than any wound. He nodded once. All right, we do this together. Outside, dust swirled in orange waves as the pirate skiffs landed. Boots hit the ground, weapons drawn. And in the shadows of the storm, 2 shapes stood ready, 1 human, 1 alien, not alone anymore. The wind howled as the first pirate stepped out of the dust cloud, helmet glowing red through the storm. Behind him, 2 more figures followed, tall, armored, and armed with long-range stun rifles. Their ship hovered a few meters back, low too. The ground, its engines rumbling like a beast holding its breath. Jace crouched behind the outer generator, his pulse rifle steady in his hands. His breath was slow and measured, but his heart beat like a drum. He didn't know if it was the fear or the fact that Lyra was still behind him, just out of sight. The lead pirate tapped his helmet, scanning the area. This place is dead. One of them said through a comlink. No, the leader growled. The signal came from here. Pod's close. I can smell the core fuel. Jace waited, hidden, then whispered into the mic. Now. Lyra stepped from behind the metal crates on the opposite side, her arms raised slightly, palms glowing faint blue. The pirates turned immediately, weapons aimed at her. Don't move. The leader barked. Identify your model. I am. Nanny Class 4, she said softly, her voice almost too calm. Unarmed, peaceful. The pirates hesitated. Then one laughed. That's worth a lot in certain markets. The leader lowered his gun slightly. You're coming with us. No, she said, and then her body flared. It wasn't fire. It wasn't light. It was something. FELT, a pulse of energy burst from her, invisible but heavy like a shockwave. The sand under their feet shifted. The ship's lights flickered. The leader staggered back, gripping his head. What the Jace moved fast. While the pirates were stunned, he aimed and fired. One shot hit a weapon, the second grazed a shoulder. He didn't want to kill, but he would if he had to. One pirate dropped. Another scrambled behind a rock. The leader shouted, Retreat! Fall back! Lyra's glow faded. Her legs shook. She swayed, then collapsed to her knees. Jace rushed to her. Lyra! Her eyes were open, dim, her breathing shallow. I slowed. Them, she whispered. Can't. Hold system. Don't talk, he said, lifting her into his arms. Behind them, the pirates retreated to their ship, engines roaring. They weren't gone for good, but they were gone for now. Back inside the shelter, Jace laid her gently on the cot. Her body was limp. Her skin, once glowing softly, had dulled to a pale gray blue. The translation pendant flickered, then turned red again. Lyra? He asked. She didn't respond. He checked for damage, no wounds, no burns. Just silence. She had warned him. If she used that power, she might shut down. Jay sat beside her, arms crossed, staring at the floor. He hated this feeling. Helplessness. Waiting. Watching. The hours passed. Slowly. Night came. Still nothing. Jace didn't sleep. He kept the door locked, checked the monitors every few minutes, and returned to her side every time. He wasn't sure when it happened, but at some point just before morning he heard a soft sigh. He spun around. Lyra's fingers twitched. Then her eyes fluttered open. Dim at first, then brightening. System restarting, she whispered weakly. Time? Almost 10 hours, Jay said, kneeling beside her. I thought. He didn't finish the sentence. She looked at him and smiled faintly. You didn't leave? Of course not. I wasn't sure. Most people do. Jace reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. He didn't think about it, it just happened. And she didn't move away. I'm not most people, he said quietly. She blinked. I noticed. He gave a small smile when he hadn't felt in years, but peace didn't last long. The next day, while checking the pirate ship scanner logs, Jace found something worse. They weren't just scavengers, he said. They were mapping locations, sending data back to a command ship. Lyra sat up slowly. You mean they'll come back? And next time, with more. Lyra stared at the screen. Then we must leave. Jace frowned. Where would we even go? This is the only shelter for 100 kilometers. There is one place, she said slowly. My database has coordinates. A forgotten station built before the collapse. It may still function, but it's underground. How far? 3 days on foot, maybe more, but it's safe, hidden. Jace looked out the window. The sky was turning dark again, not from storm but smoke. Pirate trails, ships circling. We have one night, he said. We move at first light. Lyra nodded. And just before they packed what little gear they had, she touched his shoulder. I meant what I said before. You were alone for so long. I don't want that anymore. Jace turned to her. Neither do I. Outside, fire trails marked the horizon. But inside, something new had started to grow. Hope. Asterisk. They left at dawn. Jace carried a small pack of rations, 2 water canisters, and his pulse rifle. Lyra walked beside him, slower than before. She hadn't fully recovered from the biopulse, and every few steps she paused to breathe. He offered to carry her once. She refused with a soft smile. I am built to assist, she said. Not be a burden. You're not a burden, he answered without thinking. The air was thin. The red sun hung low behind them as they moved across dry plains filled with shattered rocks and dead cables from long-fallen satellites. At night, they took shelter under broken bridge supports, wrapping themselves in blankets to block the freezing winds. Jace kept watch while Lyra recharged. She didn't sleep like humans did. Her body went still, and a soft hum came from her chest as her systems restored themselves. He could hear it even when she was quiet. It was comforting. On the second day, they spotted movement on the ridge. Black drone. Watching. Then it zipped away. Jace tensed. They're tracking us, Lyra nodded. They want me back. We're not letting that happen. That night, Jace dreamed of Earth, but not how it was. It was quiet in his mind, gray skies and silent cities. He walked alone through it until he turned and saw Lyra standing in the ruins, holding a child in her arms. The child was smiling. He didn't know who the child was. When he woke, Lyra was staring at the stars. I sometimes wonder, she whispered, why I was built to feel. Jace rubbed his face. You regret it? I thought it was a mistake. Emotions make systems unstable, make choices harder. But now, I don't think it was wrong. She looked at him, and her voice dropped low. I feel something now. Something strange. I don't understand it fully. Jace felt his chest tighten. Me too. They said nothing more that night. On the third morning, they reached a dry canyon. This is it, Lyra said, pointing toward a narrow crevice between two cliffs. The signal is weak, but I feel it. Together they climbed down, stepping over jagged stones and sand piles. At the bottom was a metal hatch half buried under dust and roots. Jace knelt, wiped it clean, and saw the old marking Station 9 Delta. You were right, he said. The hatch wouldn't open with normal commands, so Lyra connected a thin wire from her wrist to the panel. System override, she whispered. Door clicked, groaned, then slid open with a hiss of stale air. Inside was darkness. Jace aimed his flashlight ahead. Metal halls, cracked walls, and old lights flickering above. The air was cold, still, but it was a shelter. And more than that, it had power. They followed the path through the hallways until they found a control room. Jace placed his hand on a dusty console. Think we can power it? Give me 5 minutes, Lyra said, kneeling beside an access port. He watched her work. Her hands moved with precision, but her face was tired. She had pushed too far already. You need to rest, he said. I will. After this, the screens lit up. Old monitors came to life, showing maps of the region, system stats, even old broadcast files from before the fall. And just as Jace let out a breath of relief, an alarm blinked on the corner screen. Unknown. Signal detected, Lyra said softly. No, Jace growled. Not again. A blinking red icon showed a ship inbound fast. From orbit. They must have followed the drone's trail, she said. Jace stood. We just got here. We can hide in the lower chambers. Or try to run deeper. There's a bunker below this level. He checked the energy levels. Doors are old. If they trap us inside? Lyra looked at him. Do you trust me? He didn't even hesitate. Yes. They ran through the halls, deeper into the station. Lights flickered as old motion sensors activated. Dust rained from the ceiling with each step. Somewhere above, the ship was landing. They reached the lower chamber, a sealed room with old med beds and a small console. Lyra slammed the door shut and began hacking the control to jam it closed. Suddenly, loud metal steps echoed above, then voices. Not pirates this time. Soldiers. Double quotes. They found us, Jace whispered. No, Lyra said slowly, narrowing her eyes at the console. These aren't just raiders. They're from the collective. Jace froze. You mean military? Government controlled. Recovery units, she said. They're not just here to take me. They're here to erase everything, including you. He raised his rifle. Then we fight. But Lyra touched his hand gently. I have one more trick, but I need your help. Jace nodded. Tell me what to do. And this time, there was no hesitation between them. Lyra took a slow breath. Her skin flickered faintly again, the soft blue glow returning as she touched the old bunker's control panel. But this time, she didn't just access the systems. She started linking to something deeper. This station was once part of a hidden net, she said, voice low and focused. It connected old Earth AI Core's underground archives. Not many people knew, but nanny units like me, we were designed to remember. Jace watched her with narrowed eyes. You're trying to wake a buried AI? Not just wake it, she said. I want it to see us. He didn't understand, not fully. But he saw the strain in her fingers. As she pressed the last key and injected part of her core energy into the console, a deep hum vibrated through the bunker. Then came the voice. Unit LIRA-4 recognized. Connection confirmed. Defensive protocol incomplete. Request identification. of additional biological presence. Jace looked up. Is that it? Yes, Lyra said. Now say your name. He hesitated, then stepped forward. Jace Torin, civilian, Earthborn. Last station operator in the Outer Belt. A pause. Then, acknowledged. 1 human. 1 hybrid caretaker. Requesting confirmation, are you both under hostile threat? Lyra answered. Yes, armed collective. Recovery team approaching. Intent, forceful extraction. Possible erasure. The AI paused again. Then it said, you have limited control of this station. If you are willing to defend it, I will respond accordingly. Jace grinned. We're willing. The old bunker came alive. Lights flared. Old defense locks snapped into place. Shields hummed from somewhere deep underground. The walls shook slightly as the base dead for years came back to life. They'll tried to breach through the main shaft, Lyra said. But if we jam it and reroute the energy cells, we might be able to trap them inside the upper corridor. Jace grabbed a wrench and a sidearm. Show me where. They worked fast. Wires ripped from the walls, old batteries swapped. Lyra guided the power routes while Jace manually cut access to certain doors. Sweat ran down his face, dust covered his hands. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was just surviving. He had purpose again. They were a team. But time was short. Lyra paused at one panel, eyes wide. They've breached the top hatch. 70 seconds. Jace tossed her the last energy pack. Charge your core. What about you? I'll be fine. She hesitated, then snapped it into her wrist and lit up once more. The moment the soldiers dropped into the station, the defense system triggered. Heavy shutters slammed down. Explosive traps, placed by Jace, fired sparks through the hall. Screams followed, then silence. Only one soldier made it through. He was bigger than the rest, clearly a commander. His armor was plated with black alloy, and his voice was sharp and cold. You have something that does not belong to you, he said as he stepped through the smoke. Jace aimed his rifle. The commander didn't flinch. Surrender the hybrid, or you both die. Lyra stepped forward, weak but glowing. I am not property. You are tech, he replied, made in a lab. You were designed to obey. I was also designed to care, she said quietly. Something you clearly were. Not. Jace raised the rifle. You heard her. The commander moved faster than human. His hand struck Jace's weapon, knocking it aside. The rifle clattered across the floor. He grabbed Jace by the collar, lifting him off the ground. Lyra cried out, Let him go. She charged, her hands glowing again. But the commander struck her with the back of his armored arm, sending her flying across the room. She hit the wall hard. Lyra! Jace shouted, struggling in the man's grip. But Lyra was already standing again, bleeding. From her lip, her arm shaking, she stepped forward slowly. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. Her voice calm, cold. I was built to protect children, families, life. I am not a weapon, but I can be. She raised her hands, and for the first time, the entire bunker responded. The walls lit up with her pulse. The AI sensed to her signal, and then the floor beneath the commander glowed red. Too late. He looked down. The trapdoor opened. He fell straight into the empty shaft below. A deep crash echoed. Silence. Then the shaft sealed shut. Jace dropped to his knees. Gasping for breath, Lyra ran to him. Are you hurt? He shook his head, looking at her with disbelief. You just took control of the whole station. I only used what was already here, she said softly. He looked at her for a long time. No, he whispered. You are what saved us, she blinked. You still trust me? Lyra, I think I feel something for you. She stepped closer. I know. And for the first time since the fall of Earth, in a station buried beneath dust and forgotten metal, a human and a hybrid simply stood, no longer strangers. Days passed. The station, once cold and forgotten, now pulsed with quiet energy. Jace and Lyra had sealed all upper access points. The AI systems ran smooth diagnostics, filtering air and distributing power. The threat for now was gone, but something else had changed between them. Jace felt it in the quiet moments, when Lyra sat beside him without speaking, when she smiled faintly while fixing a broken screen, when her hand lingered near his without needing a reason, and he noticed something different in himself. He no longer counted the days. He no longer woke with dread. He wasn't just surviving, he was living. You never talk about your past, Lyra said one evening as they shared a small meal in the dimly lit control room. There's not much to tell, Jace replied, chewing slowly. Born on a dying Earth, lost my parents young, survived with old machines and old habits. She tilted her head slightly. But you chose kindness. You helped me when you didn't have to. He looked at her. Because you looked like someone who had never been helped before. Lyra's voice became quiet. I hadn't. She turned away, fingers curling around her cup. I was trained to serve, not to belong, she said. Every home I was sent to before, I was treated like a device. A tool. When I was damaged, they shut me down, reprogrammed me. Cold hands, cold voices. Jace felt anger rise in his chest. That's not what you are. No, she said softly. But I didn't believe that until you told me. Jace reached across the table, touching her hand gently. Her skin was warm, now warm like his. Outside, wind stirred the canyon dust. But inside the station, it was calm. That night, as Lyra recharged, Jace climbed to the upper levels. The AI had detected another signal distant but moving. Another ship, approaching from orbit, but this one was slower. Not military. Curious, he adjusted the scanner. Then he saw an old Earth signature. Lyra, he called down through the. Come, you need to see this. She appeared moments later, brushing dust from her arms. He pointed at the blinking dot. That's a human signal, civilian. Lyra stared at it. Impossible. Earth hasn't sent ships in years. Unless someone's still out there, he said. The ship's ID flickered on screen. Pioneer-class transport, Eden Trail. That name, Lyra's voice shook slightly. That was part of the evacuation fleet. Jace turned to her. You were on one of those? No, but I remember the registry. That ship went missing right after the war. The I spoke then. Long range comms reconnected. Message received. Jace pressed the playback. A woman's voice crackled through the speakers. This is Eden Trail, carrying survivors from the new Ark colony. Systems damaged. Life support failing. We are inbound on emergency protocol. Requesting landing clearance. Anyone, please respond. Then silence. Jace looked at Lyra. How many people do you think are aboard? Hundreds, she whispered. Maybe more. If they're still alive, Jace stood slowly. We have to help them, Lyra nodded. We'll need to restore the landing pad, set up temporary shelter, and guide them in before they crash. They worked fast. Old support beams were reinforced. The AI helped rebuild a guidance beacon. The lower chambers were cleared of debris to prepare emergency beds and ration points. Lyra paused near the collapsed western wing. We can't fix everything in time. Not alone. Jace looked at her. Then we're not alone, he said firmly. You said this place connects to other cores, right? Old AI stations? Lyra's eyes lit up. Yes, we can try to wake them. So they did. With Lyra's voice and code, the station sent out a ping one that traveled through deep communication. Wires long buried and long silent, and one by one, other old stations began to blink online scattered across the planet. Systems dusty but not dead. We're building something again, Lyra whispered, watching the map light up. Jay stepped beside her. Feels like a beginning. She turned to him. Do you ever wonder what it would have been like if humans and my kind had trusted each other from the start? All the time, he said. She looked into his eyes. We still can, she said. You and me. Jace nodded slowly. His voice low, honest. Lyra, I care about you, not as a machine, not as a project, but as you. Her lips trembled. I care about you too, Jace, in a way I wasn't programmed to feel. Outside, the stars shifted dot, and in the distance, the Eden Trail approached wounded, but full of hope. Lyra whispered, let's welcome them. Together. The sky burned silver as the Eden Trail broke through the upper atmosphere, its engines failing, sparks trailing behind like falling stars. It was coming in too fast. The old ship groaned against gravity, drifting toward the landing zone with no control left. Jay stood on the old launch pad with Lyra beside him. Her hand was linked into the beacon tower, voice calm but urgent as she guided the ship's descent. Angle 5 degrees left, adjust primary thrusters. She spoke into the come. Pull power from lower deck if needed. You must slow down. A shaky voice responded, we've got failing hydraulics. Kids aboard, please help. Lyra closed her eyes and sent one final command. The old station's magnetic stabilizers fired for the first time in decades. The wind screamed, lights shorted, and the earth trembled beneath them. The Eden Trail landed hard, but it didn't crash. It hit the pad with a grinding shudder, one wing bent, hull scorched, but it was intact. Then, silence. Jace exhaled and sprinted forward, pulling the old hatch open. Smoke billowed out. Inside were rows of people, humans thin, dirty, and wide-eyed. A girl coughed, holding her younger brother close. An old man blinked as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Lyra stepped up behind Jace, glowing faintly. We're here to help, she said gently. A woman stepped out, clutching a data slate. Are you human? She asked Jace, her voice shaking. He nodded. Yeah, and she's a caretaker. The woman's eyes filled with tears. We thought we were the last. So did I, Jace whispered. Over the next hours, they brought everyone out one by one. Children, injured men, tired women, and even a few newborns born during flight. Jace gave them blankets, old rations, and water. Lyra adjusted the air circulation and assigned sleeping areas in the lower chambers. The station, dead and forgotten, was alive again. Later that night, Jace sat outside the shelter, watching the stars. He could hear laughter echo from below, children laughing. It was a sound he hadn't heard in years. Lyra walked up behind him. They're settling in, she said. You did this, he said. You saved them. We did this, she corrected. Together. He looked at her, really looked. The way her silver eyes reflected the sky. The way her voice carried warmth even through synthetic tones. The way her presence made the cold desert feel like a home. I used to believe I was supposed to be alone, he said. That life was just waiting for the end. Lyra sat beside him. So did I, he turned to her. But then you fell from the sky. She smiled faintly. You were the first one to treat me like I was more than my programming. You were never just programming, he said. They sat in silence a moment. Then Lyra whispered, I have one last protocol I never completed. Jace raised an eyebrow. What is it? She stood, took a slow step toward him, and placed her hand over his heart. To choose where I belong, he swallowed. And? Her voice was gentle. I choose here, with you. He smiled, then stood and pulled her gently into his arms. You're home now, he whispered. And so am I. In the weeks that followed, the station became a colony. More survivors answered the long-range beacon. Farmers, engineers, teachers, humans who had been in hiding. Jace helped train them. Lyra guided children through language, lessons, and health checks. She sang to the babies, helped with food rotations, and learned to smile with her eyes. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a little girl ran up to Jace and tugged his sleeve. "Mr. Jace?" she said. "Is Miss Lyra really a robot?" Jace knelt. "She's a lot of things, but more than anything, she's family." The child nodded and ran off laughing. Later, Lyra approached him quietly. "Do you really believe that?" He took her hand. "I believe you're more human than most of us ever were." She leaned her head on his shoulder. And under the starlit sky, two souls, one born of Earth, the other built from stars, sat side by side, no longer broken, no longer alone. Not a mistake, not a mission, but a beginning. Asterisk.